Well, hello everyone, and wishing everyone the best on this holiday if you're part of the Yom Kippur holiday, and I hope it's meaningful. My name is Peggy West. I'm the organizer for today. And today we have a great program presentation by Ed Runke and his partner Brandon. And also we have an experienced insurance broker on, Daniel Baum. So let me do some preliminary introductions and then we'll get started. So I just want to say from a housekeeping standpoint, if you are getting a CEU credit, give the people time to enter it within about 2 weeks. Okay. Then follow up yourself with DBPR, check your uh, account and see if it's been posted, but give them at least 10 days and we'll get it all posted for you. As far as housekeeping, if you have questions, please put them in Q&A, not the chat. We are recording the Q&A box, but we don't record chat. So if the questions aren't answered at the very end, the speakers and presenters, and we have 3 today on the panel actually, they can get back to you at a later date. So make sure your name's on there. Let me introduce some sponsors for today who have taken time to invite you. I'm going to start with Vinteum Software. Vinteum is known for producing websites. I'm going to let Laura speak for that. Laura's on. She's the international salesperson. Laura, tell us about yourself and the company.
All right. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura. I'm one of the sales executive here at Vinteum. So here at Vinteum, we provide basically HOA or condominiums management software. We have been in business for over 11 years in the U.S., and one of our biggest markets is actually Florida. So, now that we're talking about Florida, I also wanted to give you guys a little reminder. If you didn't know, the new Florida law update states that by January 1st, 2026, associations with 25 or more units will be legally required to have a website and a password protected portal with very important documents like Zoom minutes or board meeting minutes. And we actually can help you guys out with that. So if you'd like to schedule a free demo, you can definitely go ahead and do it with us. I'll send you the link through the chat so we can help you guys or any association or HOA with complying to those requirements by 2026. The website, the password, protected portal, pretty much everything.
Okay, awesome. And they also do training. So don't be afraid to take on a website if you've never had one. They will do one-on-one. So thank you for that. And thank you to your team also for the support of putting this together. Next, I want to introduce Daniel Baum. He is the CEO and the founder of COA Solutions of Florida. He's also our moderator for today, and thank you for that. Daniel, tell us about yourself, what you do, and what COA Solutions is known for.
Sure. Hi, Peggy. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. You've all heard me before, I'm sure. I've done this a few times. COA Solutions is a commercial property and casualty insurance broker. We specialize in what's called habitable cat risk, which is simply people that live in hurricane-prone areas. Obviously, Florida being our main market, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties are our largest markets, but we do work all over the state. And my job, as I see it, is to help all of you in your communities find the best possible coverage at the lowest possible price. My goal is to help you find ways to save money, whether that's by uncovering mistakes that were made by previous agents or in documentation, or shopping markets that others have not been looking into, or just generally giving you advice and direction when you have questions and don't know where to go. The way I do this very simply is I offer a free review of your policies. There's nothing to sign. You don't have to sign over your insurance programs to me. I literally can look them over and tell you fairly quickly if I think you have a good rate or if I think you're overpriced. And that's just it. Property this year, if you haven't heard from me before, the property market has really loosened up quite a bit. There's a lot more carriers out there. The prices have come down significantly. You should have all gotten some benefit of that. Hopefully, your agents were able to get you even bigger discounts. The general liability market has remained fairly stable. I haven't seen dramatic decreases, but I have seen different pricing between carriers. So shopping the GL has been a really good idea this year. The one thing I have seen an increase on is the directors and officers market, and this tends to be because of the litigation that's gone on and the fraud that's been uncovered in some communities in our state. And so D&O has tightened up a little bit, but it's not a very expensive policy, so it doesn't usually affect your communities too badly. With that said, I'm going to let the pros who we're going to have talk to you more about the insurance today. I'll be here to guide and answer questions as well. I thank you again for joining us, and I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks, Pat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. Next, I want to introduce the company United Professional Engineering. Today, we have on the local representative out of Palm Beach County, Siobhan Heredia. Siobhan, tell us about your company and your owner and what you guys are doing.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Afternoon. Happy Thankful Thursday. I trust today you all have something that you can find to be grateful for. I'm grateful to represent one of the best structural engineering firms here in South Florida. We have been serving South Florida and condominiums for over 20 years. So we are a full service structural engineering firm. Everything that you need from milestone inspections, phase 1, phase 2, recertification, special assessments. We also offer SIRS, full reserve study. Newly, we also offer owner's representation. So that is a new service that we're offering. We always set apart. We have extensive construction administration and project management services designed into our engineering proposals at no additional cost. That's very important for you to know. We do offer a complimentary consultation, complimentary proposal review. We're proud to represent and educate Florida. Our president and owner is the standing president of the Florida Structural Engineers Association. So we're here to help. If you have questions, if you're not sure where to go, please reach out. We're here to answer your questions and provide guidance on when you need to engineer, what your association needs, and how to support you, your safety, and the integrity of your investment.
Okay, absolutely. That's awesome. Didn't you also take on something new here recently for tax write-offs related to engineering, similar to like Sears, right? What is that you mentioned?
Yes, thank you for asking. So, super new. We are adding cost segregation. So this allows for commercial properties, for rental properties, for the owners to save thousands on your taxes. So we offer a cost segregation study. If this interests you, send me a message. I'll have all my information below, and I can send you more information. We can chat.
Awesome. Okay, great. Next, I want to introduce the company that's known for consulting for elevators. Today, we have on Damaris Cabrera. She's with Clarkson and Varick. You want to introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself and what you guys are doing, please.
Thank you, Peggy. My name is Damaris Cabrera. I'm the Business Development Manager for Clarkson and Varick for all Florida. We've been working on the Florida market for the last 5 years. I've been with the company for the last 3. We are on the owner side, so we are here to support the owners in everything that they need elevator related. We bring the expertise to shed some light in the issues with the elevators. It's like it seems to be extremely common, and sometimes it's the lack of understanding. So if the elevators are failing and there is not a clear explanation why, if the elevator company or elevator contractor is asking you to look into modernize, if you have bills that you didn't budget for, we're happy to support that effort. We review the contract, we review the billing, and we help the owners and the project property managers to understand the challenges with the elevators. There are some code requirements on the horizon, something that just, there's one, the door lock monitoring, that just was due by August on 2025, and that was the extension. Um, uh, the records from the cities show that 80% of the buildings is still not compliant. It's the lack of understanding of that these life and safety code requirements they need to be met, and the city will enforce that. So we'll be happy to look into the equipment and explain what needs to get done. Every piece of equipment is absolutely different for everything, for maintenance, for a upgrades and for modernization. So please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, and if I didn't mention it, all of our sponsors for today will be on the sponsor sheet. So next, let me introduce Shawnee Haas. She is with Munyon Painting and Contracting out of the Tampa area, but they do service the state. Shawnee, tell us about yourself and the company.
Hi everyone, I'm Shawnee. I am the marketing manager for Munyon Painting. A little bit about myself. I am a graduate of UCF, Go Knights, and I've spent the last 4 years in various marketing roles across news, technology, and construction. And back in July, I joined Munyon Painting. For over 70 years, Munyon has been helping Florida communities look their best with high quality exterior and interior painting services. We cover both residential and commercial properties. We're really passionate about protecting properties, and we love partnering with boards and managers to keep their communities sharp and well maintained. And also a big thank you to Peggy for putting these webinars together. They're always a lot of fun and very informative, and I really look forward to meeting and connecting with you all.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yes, you have a lot of experience. Munyon's probably happy to have you. So. Next, I want to introduce Jamie Gelfand. She is with First Citizens Bank. Jamie is an icon in the industry, been around for a while. Jamie, tell us about yourself and what you do and about First Citizens.
Thanks, Peggy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Gelfand. I'm the Regional Sales Officer in the CAB Community Association Banking Division. We provide loans and lockbox and FDIC protection for associations. So if your association is working on their milestone reports or any upgrades to the property, I'm happy to give you a proposal for a loan. We do not require you to move your primary banking relationship. So for a lot of management companies and associations, that's a big assist because moving a lockbox is a lot of work when you have all of your owners set up on ACH. So for more information, I'm going to put my name and contact information in the chat, and I hope you enjoyed today's class.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next, I want to introduce Ruthie Engel. She's with Kaiser Air Conditioning, a relatively new sponsor. So Ruthie, tell us about yourself and what does Kaiser do?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ruthie Engdahl. I'm the marketing director here at Kaiser. Thank you always, Peggy, for creating a space where we can connect with so many property managers and decision makers. I'm proud to represent Kaiser Air Conditioning, and we serve Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie counties here in South Florida. And we have extensive experience working with property managers and engineers on site, whether it be a condo or residential community with multiple buildings on property. Now, we know each scenario and property is different, so it's really all about a customized VIP HVAC plan for you for your property. And we know right now it's budgeting season, which is a stressful time of year. Super fun. We all love budgeting season. And we work with you to develop a plan so you can meet your budgetary goals while fulfilling any obligations you have to your community or to the property to always have cooling and comfortable air here in Florida. That's very important. So our goal is not only to help you solve problems when they happen, but to create a long-lasting partnership that makes managing your property easier, more efficient, and stress-free. So we are open every single day that is something I just really want to drive home. We are open 24/7 every day, weekends and holidays, and you will speak with a human being if you ever call our company. But you can always call me or text me personally, and I'm going to drop my info in the chat. And also, you'll get a follow-up email after this webinar. So thanks again, Peggy. Hope to partner with you guys soon.
You're certainly welcome. Yeah, great job on that intro. All right. Usually I allow 15 minutes for the intros, and I have a few sponsors that are not on today, possibly because of the holiday. So let me just mention them real quickly. We have PD Concrete based out of Palm Beach. They do primarily the Tri-County area. I should say Quad County now with Jupiter growing so much. Same thing for the Paving Lady based out of Palm Beach County as well. City Quiet Windows and Doors, very popular company. A lot of the associations are using in their milestone, inspections and also reconstruction. We have a relatively new sponsor also, Velocity Services Group, which is a large restoration company for large projects, large losses, a little bit different than the everyday leaks here and there, but this is for large catastrophes. Next, I have Legacy Life Plan, which is represented by the attorney Dahlia Anise, and she is putting together wills and incapacity planning, trusts, and so on. So if you need help with that, she'll also be on the sponsor sheet. We also have an up-and-coming, really fast-growing company that's doing streaming, Faster IO. We have Bob Aleka. He is the vice president you would contact off of the sponsor sheet. Today, Best Roofing is not on. Best Roofing is going to expand over to the Fort Myers area, but right now is pretty much in the Quad area from Jupiter or Martin County south to Miami. I want to also mention Alanek Railings. If anybody's looking for a railing company, new railings, repairing railings, they are a manufacturer and they are also based out of Palm Beach County. Lastly, but certainly not least, we have in Palm Beach County also Hafer Company, very well-known CPA firm, an audit firm. Please reach out to Nicole Johnson for information on them off the sponsor sheet. I have a new division I've started. If anybody's interested in connecting with these sponsors also, I have a website called flcondovendorsforyou.com. I'll be sending some information on as well. So I encourage my sponsors as well as everybody watching to go there if you're looking for new contacts. With that, I'm going to say thank you to everybody that signed on today. Thank you to the CAMs especially and the board members, because without you guys, we wouldn't have webinars, but we're glad to add education to your knowledge of what you need for your condominium management. Everybody that's on today has pretty much been vetted and are trusted professionals. And I would like to turn this over to Daniel Baum, our moderator for today, to introduce our speakers. And that would be Ed Runke and Brandon Mueller.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Hi, everyone, again. So it's my privilege to be your host today for this really interesting topic. Obviously, it's something that I deal with on a daily basis. We have two experts on the panel. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items for those of you who may not have heard Peggy earlier. We do not monitor the chat. It's just not possible to keep track of it with as many people as we have on these webinars. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. That's where we'll be able to ask our presenters to answer from. I'll start off. The one thing I will ask Ed, and you can answer this after I do your intro if you like, but the general questions we always get are, will we be sharing these slides with our community afterwards? And will you be issuing any type of certificate for the continuing education, or will you just be submitting it to the state? So let me just, if you want to answer those, and I'll do your intro.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem answering that. Yeah, so I will be sharing the slides with Peggy, and then she'll make sure she sends that out to everybody when she sends out her email follow-up. But you guys will have my contact information as well. So if you do need anything additional, we can send that to you. We are going to go over a couple specific things today that I do have like like more itemized documents on, so I can get those to you, but that would be individual. So you guys can reach out and I can get those documents to you as well. In addition to that, with the as far as the credits go, we do just issue them to the state. But if you do want the certification sheet that has your name and the course number on it, we can provide that for you. But not everybody wants them. So again, you can just reach out to us individually, and we can get that put together for you and sent over to you. And I'll drop it in the chat, but I have a general email inquiry box that'll be better for you guys to send that stuff to, so that we can make sure we get it to you in a timely manner.
Yeah, perfect. Maybe give that to Peggy when you give her the slides, and then she can send that out with the slides.
Absolutely.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you've now met Ed Runke. Ed has an extensive background in claims adjusting, emergency services, and roofing construction, as well as doing these educational webinars. His building great relationships in this industry is really key to the success, and with a powerful network, anything is certainly possible. He's worked with many different condo associations, TPAs, and insurance companies throughout the state of Florida to create better processes and decision making. Ed holds a general contractor's license, a roofing license, an adjuster license, and a certified roof and damage inspector with HAG Global, and has a passion for creating education in the industry anytime he can. He might need to collect some more licenses. I'm not sure that's enough, Ed. And then our co-presenter, this is unique. We don't always get co-presenters, so that's pretty cool that we're doing it as a combo today, is Brandon Mueller. Brandon is with Winthrop Strategies, and they do third-party risk management. And what that means is he partners with insurance brokers to understand what is driving the premium increase for your community, and put an action plan together to suppress the rising costs of insurance. He's helped quite a few communities throughout the state and their brokers achieving this goal through risk engineering. And essentially what that means is, just a little bit more, is you hire Brandon to come in and do a third-party assessment that then can be handed to your insurance carriers and be submitted with applications to bring down premiums and show the benefits of your community. And I'll let him speak more to that as we get into the conversation. Brandon, anything to add before I turn it over to Ed?
No, I think that's pretty well summed it up. So
perfect. Ed, all yours. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, put your questions in the Q&A. Ed will give me directions periodically to stop for questions, and we'll take them as we go forward. We'll also leave a little time in the end for anything we didn't cover.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much, Daniel. And as always, I appreciate the space that we have and the opportunity to be able to present. It looks like we got a great group on. It looks like we have over 100 attendees on here. So, and I know it's always in a wide variety. We'll get community managers, we'll get board members, we may get just property owners in general. I think it's great for everybody to be informed as much as possible. I think a lot of you guys, I do see some repeat, people on the list, but I see some new people as well. So it's great to see some new faces coming in and some familiar faces. Peggy in the Condo Zone puts together a great, group of people, a great group of people that educate, but also, attracts a great crowd as well. How we learn and how I like to educate is we're all learning together, right? So any questions you may have, other people definitely have as well. But in addition to that, right, I don't want this to just be, me up here speaking the entire time. That's why I brought my co-presenter on. That's why I have Daniel as well as a specialist on the insurance area as well. But what we do is we do education, right? So I'm very big on the education, making sure people are making smarter, more informed decisions for their properties, for the people they represent as well. So I'm really excited about this class. I'm going to go through a couple of things about our education and what we do, and then I'm going to jump into it. But again, thank you to Peggy for putting all this together, and she's got great vendors here that can answer great questions for you. So definitely take advantage of that. Daniel, thank you for the great introduction. I really appreciate that. And just to add in, as the co-presenter as well, and I'll jump into that when I talk more about us as an education company, but we partner with all different types of people, right? And it's no surprise why Daniel is on here, being the moderator for the navigating the insurance market. He works in the insurance market as a broker every single day, right? So he knows this space very, very well. He's going to be able to add into a lot of our conversation. But again, as the attendees, we want you guys to jump in and add in as well. I want it to be very conversational, so we will stop to answer questions as often as possible. And I am going to share my screen here. So let me just pull this up for you guys. Screen 2. Let's see here. Perfect. All right. And just let me know if anybody has any issues seeing the screen. But Daniel, how's that looking on your end?
Sorry about that. I was muted. That looks good. Do you think you can blow it up to full screen?
Yes, I am going to blow up. I actually am going to blow up the presentation when I'm on it as well, but I will zoom in if that helps a little bit. So
yeah, only because there's that's better.
That looks a little better. All right, perfect. And the presentation will be bigger, but I just wanted to show you guys. So I do have these brochures that I'll send out to everybody as well. But this is about our education. Again, we partner with Peggy to teach on a lot of her platforms. But we also do in-person education. So we'll come to your communities and teach, with your property managers. We'll speak to, entire management companies, but we'll also come and speak to boards as well and homeowners if they have more questions. But there's just a little bit more about us, the education that we provide, the owners of our company. And Daniel did a great job telling you who we are, so we don't need to get into it. And just here's some more of our additional services. But again, we offer, CEU accredited classes for CAMs. If you check out our website, we have several different classes on there for in-person and online. We also do a lot of different education in the insurance space directly with carriers, directly with TPAs or insurance professionals. So that's just a little bit about us, but I will put all that information out to you guys so that you can take a look at that as well. To touch on the questions too, I did see a couple of questions already coming into the inbox. So just as we answer these questions, I will bounce back between myself, Brandon, and even Daniel to answer these questions best as we can for you by how they come in and who they're related to. Some of the questions may not be relevant to us. We do get a lot of questions, to all the speakers that I think are usually better directed to either your board members or your general counsel. So we will advise you of that if we do see that, or if we're not equipped to answer it at this time, we'll let you know that we will work on getting an answer back to you. So if we don't have an answer at this time, feel free to follow up with us and we'll definitely get you an answer after the presentation as well. But I do want to be, making sure I'm taking care of everybody's time and we don't want to go over. So without further ado though, we're going to jump into it. So navigating the insurance market. I figured this would be a pretty popular class. Insurance has been a hot topic, right? I think it's a hot topic for everybody the past couple of years. Daniel shared when he was talking earlier that, things have gotten a little bit better. And what we're going to talk about, and when I do my education, it's all about just giving you different ideas of how you can make better, more informed decisions for your properties, right? So throughout this presentation, we have 3 main topics of different ideas that you can use. And Daniel led into that a little bit when he did Brandon's introduction, and that was one of the concepts, but we have several concepts that you can introduce to your insurance provider when you're submitting your applications to try and assist with those premiums to outlay some positives about your property. And we will go through the details of those today. And if you guys want to do a more detailed analysis of that, again, you can book some time with myself and Brandon, and we can do a more detailed engineering analysis or the other types of reports that we'll go through today. But there's the provider number, course number, if you guys need that. But Peggy will share all of your guys, for all the property managers, she'll share all the information. My team will upload that within a few days after the presentation. So just going to jump into it. First couple slides is really just going to tell you the overall of what we're going to be talking about today. And then once we get to about the third slide, we're going to jump into the specifics and we're going to start with that risk analysis engineering report. But just for the overview, table of contents, we're going to overview the insurance market, some commonly asked questions and scenarios, common misconceptions about the insurance market, risk management, custom risk engineering report, independent roof report, some additional things to consider, preventative maintenance programs, and emergency service storm plans. And you may have heard of all of these things. You may have heard of none of them. By the end of this presentation, I'm hoping that you at least know a little bit about them And if you want to know more, we can definitely do a deeper dive and make sure that your communities are all equipped to be able to, have a better chance at getting better insurance premiums going forward. So just again, overview of the insurance market, what's new in insurance today, best practices, affordability, roofing systems and solutions, inspections and cost savings. All these tie in and affect directly to your insurance and how you guys can get better pricing. So some more topics we're going to go through. And then Brandon, I know that you're going to jump in and kind of go through the commonly asked questions and scenarios. And we actually had a great conversation yesterday, I think, with Daniel about, my insurance company told me I need a new roof and it's only 15 years old, right? And like we said, commonly asked questions, but also misconceptions as well, right? So just by, in the chat, feel free to just jump in there. You don't need to ask questions or anything, but has anybody ever heard that? Hey, after 15 years, the insurance company is going to ask me to get a new roof. Just drop yes in the chat if you've heard that before. I'd like to see, if anybody's really heard that. Yeah, see, we're seeing yeses right away. So it's common out there, and we hear that a lot, right? And Daniel, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to share your piece, because I think you had a great point on the misconception on that we spoke about yesterday.
Yeah. So the conversation we were having was this roof age concept. And, for most of you who've been around and in the Florida market for more than the last 4 or 5 years, you probably didn't hear a whole lot about it because there wasn't, enormous discussion around it. It's when the market really went crazy and most of us all ran for Citizens because that was the only coverage we could get at any kind of reasonable price, if at all. So one of the things is, I hear all the time, my roof is about 15 years old. I have to change it or they're going to drop me. So that is a very specific to Citizens policy. Citizens has a specific policy that they will only insure your flat roof to 15 years, a shingle roof to 20 years, a tiled roof to 25, and a aluminum or metal roof to 30 or 35. Now, there are ways that we've extended that periodically, but those ages are specific to Citizens. If you are not with Citizens at this time, you're probably not hearing as much about that conversation, because most of the carriers out there aren't being quite that rigid. Yes, if your roof is deteriorated and it's way past its useful life and there's clearly signs of aging, you're going to have carriers who just won't cover you, or your current carrier may tell you to replace it or you'll be dropped. But it is not, that 15-year rule on a flat roof is not going to prevent you from getting coverage today the way it was for getting into Citizens or being dropped by Citizens previously.
Absolutely. And there is something that came out of all of that as well, and it pertained to Citizens. And if you're hearing it from anybody else, and again, we're not aware of it, but if you are hearing it from your carrier or from your broker, there is what you can get. You can get what's called a roof certification inspection by a licensed roofer or contractor. They'll send somebody out, and there's a form that either your carrier specifically has, or there's a general form that we get from the state as well. You send out, a licensed inspector to go out there, take a look, document if there's anything, wrong with the roof. And if you do the repairs that are recommended by the contractor, or there's no repairs recommended and you have more than 5 years of useful life, you can submit that to your insurance company as well. So those are options as well. So if you are hearing it, and again, I think it's more of a misconception that people are hearing that, and it kind of got bounced around a few years ago. But if you are hearing it, we can do roof certifications for you. Feel free to reach out, or you can reach out to whatever contractor you like, and they can do those for you as well. But any contractor that's licensed is able to do those roof certification inspections. If they haven't heard of them, there is a certified, document through the state that you can do that with. Another one, what roofing system will last the longest, right? And, I see this a lot, and a lot of people always have this question. And I always tie these questions back to making sure that you have a plan in place for what you want, right? So there's a lot more to this question than just what'll last the longest. What system best fits your geographical location, where you're at? Are you close to the coast? Are you inland? What type of roofing system is it? Is it a flat roof? Is it a shingle? Is it a tile? What manufacturer are you using, and what do those warranties look like, right? So there's a lot of detail in not just what'll last the longest, but who's going to back it the longest, right? So you need to be looking into more than just what's going to last the longest, but who's standing behind it. The carriers have taken an approach that they obviously they want to support not just your general contractor that's out there that is putting a warranty behind it, because contractors can come and go, but who is that manufacturer that's been around for 100 or 150 years that's offering, that full material and labor warranty backing that system? And that doesn't just go for roofing, but it goes for all the different systems that you're placing, on your community. So make sure you understand what those manufacturers' warranties look like when you're dealing with that. And then, how can I reduce my insurance premiums without getting a new roof? Will rates go down? What are my options? Brandon, did you want to touch on those a little bit?
Yeah. So, not always getting the insurance premiums down is the goal. Like a lot of times, winds come in all shapes and sizes, right? So, we've seen where the community we were working with was facing they had to get a re-roof before their renewal. So, we had an independent inspection done on the roof, and we were able to essentially convince the insurance carrier that there was a couple hot spots in the roof that couldn't be fixed. We did work with Ed on that. We got it fixed, and the win for that community was that they were able to get through the renewal for the following renewal. So it's one of the things where just wins come in all shapes and sizes, and really giving the underwriters and the carriers the confidence that they're taking on a good risk is something that is the whole goal. Most underwriters, I'm going to touch on this on the next slide, but most underwriters look at, they get thousands of these submissions, and they look at the year built, how old is the roof, the type of structure, and that's it. And what nobody's doing is really forcing them to turn around and understand more about the roof. The roof may be brand new, but it's one thing to say it's a brand new roof, but when you have an independent roof study or a roof certification that shows the roof does not leak, there's no hot spots with infrared photos, it really tells a better story.
Yeah, Brandon, there is someone who I was just responding to in our Q&A who said that they submitted a roof report to Citizens for a flat roof that was 10 years old, and Citizens wanted to give them one more year useful life on it.
Yeah. Citizens kind of pulls the strings there because they know you're there as a last resort for the most part. So they can kind of decide, you're there. Citizens makes the call on that. Nobody chooses to go to Citizens. They go to Citizens because they have to. I think Daniel can attest to that. If you've ever put in a submission for Citizens, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I would only say that if Citizens has very specific guidelines and they document those guidelines. Now, does that mean they don't change? Absolutely. Does it mean that you get an underwriter who doesn't really know what they're doing? They're more, they're newer, they're trying not to make mistakes. We've dealt with all of that kind of stuff. But I can tell you full stop, Citizens gives 15 years on a flat roof. If they're not giving you 15 years and your roof age is less than that, you need to go back to your agent and make them push back against that underwriter, because it's the underwriter that's the problem. They need to elevate it to a more senior underwriter who will look at that issue, because that is completely against their guidelines, and they have to have better rationale than just you have one more year useful life. That's just ridiculous.
No, absolutely. And to that point, right, you want to be able to have options. So the different things we're going to go through today is going to try to, point out those positive qualities of your property so that you do have more options. But, exactly to Daniel's point, you do have that 15 years even within their policy. So you can now you guys know that, right? So now you can push back on that if you do see that, and we're willing to stand behind that for you guys as well. But just like any industry, and you have to remember, Citizens is a state-run facility, right? So they have adjusters changing in and out of the desks on a regular basis. and underwriters. So just like any other job in any other industry. So you may have somebody that doesn't fully understand it. You should push back to make sure, especially on that flat roof, that you do have the 15 years, especially if you're sitting there with a certificate in your hand saying the roof has useful life up to 15 years. So know that you do have a little bit more power than them to just turn you away. And again, each individual carrier has their own, laws and policies on how they govern that. So you need to understand that really well. So if your broker or your agent isn't helping you with that, call Daniel, so because that's the truth. You want to make sure that you understand and know all these options. If they're not bringing this up to you on a regular basis, it probably is because they don't know it. So you want to make sure that you're going in there well equipped. And then go ahead, Brent. I'll let you jump into the misconceptions about the insurance market as well.
Yeah, so one of the common misconceptions that I see, and I see it with almost every building, I see it with almost every insurance deal I've ever worked on, is having multiple brokers go out to the market. You interview 3 and you send all 3 out to the market. What ends up happening, and not a lot of people realize, is that if a broker goes to, let's say, Coastal, Daniel actually gave a good example of a better way to explain this than I will, but if you have a broker that goes to one carrier, that carrier is now blocked for the rest of the market. The carrier, no other broker can access it because there's already a submission in there. And what you're effectively doing is sending multiple brokers out to the market with literally a third of the market they're able to access. Now, there is certain carriers that only certain brokers have access to, like ones, I think QBE, and that's a USI and Brown & Brown. If I'm correct on that, Daniel, just check me. You have the QBE market, I think, is specific to USI and Brown & Brown.
Yeah,
I don't think.
It's a closed market to except for, and QBE is really meant for the very high, expensive towers for the most part.
Yeah. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that was, but the other thing is really understanding that, you really want to find a broker that's proactive. You want to find a broker that's going to go, I'm not a broker myself, but you want to find a broker that's going to go to the market, go to all the carriers they need to go to, and basically just do everything they have to do, to demonstrate to the market that your building is different and here are the reasons why. And, that's their edge. A lot of people will turn around and say, like USI and Brown & Brown have a junior broker program where they send all these people out and they call the property managers and they say, we can guarantee you 20%, we can guarantee you 10%. If anybody is guaranteeing you in this market any level of savings reduction without seeing any data at all, they're saying that so they can get a hold of your data and position you to get a broker record letter. Broker record letters can be a double-edged sword in some ways. I think Daniel has seen in the market, I'm sure he could admit to this, that there's some shady ways that brokers get you to sign BORs, and you don't even realize you're doing it. And then by the time you realize it, you're kind of stuck with that broker and everybody's boxed out. There's two, I think Daniel and I talked about 2 good reasons why you sign a BOR. Daniel, can you touch on that for a second?
Yeah. So BOR, as Brandon explained, is called a broker of record letter. And there's literally only 2 reasons to sign this for an agent. And I want to be very clear about that because there's been a misconception, as Brandon said, for many years, where brokers will say to you, I would love to review your policies for you. Just sign this broker of record letter because I can't review them unless you sign. That is one of the biggest falsehoods I've ever heard in this industry. Anyone can look at your insurance documentation if you want to give it to them to review. It's your documents. They belong to you, no one else. So you have the right to have whoever you want look at them. As far as the broker of record letter, the 2 reasons to use it are as follows. Number 1, you just don't like your broker anymore. You don't trust them. You don't want to work with them, whatever the reason is, and you want to assign a different broker or agent to your account. Very simple. You sign a letter that says, please remove agent A and please insert agent B. Just that simple. The only other reason was, as Brandon was saying earlier, was when you have what's called a closed market. So the analogy I like to give is if you were in a bank and you went up to a teller window, and imagine if you had 10 teller windows in front of you. You can go up to each one of those 10 windows and ask them for a quote. But once they give you a quote, they close the window and you cannot go back to them. No one else can go back to them for another quote. So that's how insurance works. If an agent who you did not authorize or give permission goes to a teller window, a carrier, and asks for a quote on your behalf and has now blocked your agent from accessing that window, that is the only other reason to give this broker of record letter. With that letter, the broker or agent can then go up to the window and say, please reopen. I have authorization from the client saying I'm the one you should have given that quote to. And that's the only two reasons for it.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that.
So it's really there's very sneaky ways. To look at your policies, you guys have access to those policies, and to have another broker review them, you don't have to sign any paperwork to do that. Daniel said he does free review ones. I've done reviews on them, and then to really determine if we can do anything. But the other thing to understand is that the underwriters and the underwriting process, at the end of the day, these underwriters are just people. They work 9 to 5. If they're staring at these long accord forms, I'm sure you guys have seen, there's a million boxes on them. You have to go through and check every box. And at the end of the day, these brokers are really looking at, like I said, they're looking at how old the roof is. They're looking at when the building was built. They're looking at the location of the building. How far is it from the ocean? And that's really the community they're putting them in. So, we talk about risk management as a way to really force the carriers to take a second, third, and fourth look at the property itself, from an engineering standpoint, from a risk standpoint, to say, okay, this is maybe a better risk. It pulls the building further out of the community rating, and it maybe puts them in a higher tier rating or a lower tier rating, depending on how you're looking at it. We mentioned citizens, and the citizens option. 2 years ago, everybody was running for cover with citizens. And every broker was saying, most brokers were saying, look, I can get you into citizens. I can get you citizens. That's also a falsehood, because to get into citizens, you have to qualify. And you have to qualify by basically being that your insurance premiums, that all the quotes you're getting are 20% higher. I think that's the number, 20% higher than the quotes you currently have. And then citizens will let you in. And that has to be submitted within 90 days. So it's one of the things where people said, I can get you into citizens. I can't tell you how many rooms I've been in where they're like, oh, our broker's going to try to get us into citizens. And it's like, well, he doesn't have a choice. If he can't get you into citizens, or your premiums aren't going up 20%, you're not getting into citizens. Citizens those citizens are going to issue a no quote. So that's some of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen. It's just basically just an overall understanding of how to purchase the insurance. It is one of your biggest expenses, if not your largest expense. So making sure you're going through the right buying process is the correct way to do it. And you want to move that? No, you want to move that slide up? Go ahead.
Well, thank you for that, Brandon. And just to touch on as well, I saw a lot of people are commenting back and forth in the chat. That's great. But again, if you do have specific questions, make sure you're throwing them in the Q&A, just because we do want to make sure that we get those answered. I saw a few questions in the chat box, but make sure we're getting those to the Q&A. And Daniel, if you want, we could take a pause real quick and see if there's any questions in there that might be relevant to the topics we touched on. If not, we can move on. So let me know if you see any in there.
Sure. Let's see what we got here. This is talking about D&O. We can try on this one if you like. How does the size of the HOA affect the ability to secure effective coverage at reasonable premiums?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The size of the HOA, I think obviously size is going to matter when you're dealing with, getting insurance premiums and that nature. But I think it ties into everything that we're talking about today is how much control do you have over your property because of its size, right? So I don't think they're always going to be looking at, obviously, if you have more to insure, the insurance is going to cost more, right? And that's a direct reflection, but they're going to look at how much control do you have over your community, because you may have multiple different properties under that. You may, or it may just be a ton of buildings, so are 4 of the buildings updated and 16 of them are not updated? That's obviously going to affect your premiums, right? And your reserves and the amount of money you have or special assessments are going to affect if you do all of your buildings updates or you don't. So I definitely think that size is going to play a factor in that space. And I don't know any on the detailed side of the insurance, Daniel, if you have any specific comments about that, but that's what I would see. And what I've seen is Sometimes they're not updating the entire community. So if you do have a plan in place to update the entire community within the next year, I know that the insurance will usually honor that. But every insurance company is different. So what is your experience with that and kind of what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't found that the size of the HOA really affects your ability to obtain insurance. Obviously, as you pointed out, when you make modifications to a community, it's better to do them to the entire community so everyone gets the benefit of whatever the improvements are you're making. The insurance companies will look at individual buildings and rate them individually, so you will get premium relief for properties that are newer or more updated versus ones that are older. If the only thing I would say as far as the ability to get coverage is when you become when the total insured value is extremely large. Many carriers don't want to take enormous amounts of risk. So what do I mean by that? If your community is, let's say, from under 10 million, it's pretty easy to get coverage from a single carrier. When you get above the 10 million mark, we call that an A rating. And then it becomes a little bit more challenging. Again, many carriers will cover over 10 million. When you start to get up to the 60 million, 70 million, 80 million plus levels, that's when things start to get more complicated because individual carriers don't like to write that level of risk individually. And then what we have to do is put together what's called a layered program, where we'll take, let's say the first layer is 5 million of coverage from the first carrier. And that will be the most expensive of the premiums because they're taking the first and biggest risk. Then the next layer could be as much as 10 or 20 million from another carrier, a different carrier. And that premium, when it comes to the rate, will be less because they're taking only a secondary risk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it gets a little bit more complicated, but I wouldn't say that the size of the community affects your ability to get coverage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree with that. I think that that's the same. You just have to make sure that you're doing your due diligence on those larger properties. And again, to reiterate, better to do the whole community than to do it in sections. But if you can only do sections, you will get rewarded for that. But you just have to make sure that, you're being consistent and, having a good timeline for when those buildings are going to be updated as well. So
yeah, it looks like I have a question that could be for Brandon here. Brandon, do you evaluate stormwater and drain water collection systems? This individual says we're a 21-year-old single-family home and townhome villa community. Is an inspection now or soon wise, or are the systems young enough not to be concerned about? And if an inspections are recommended, how are quotes contained and what are the rates based upon?
So when we do these corner to corner inspections, and I can touch on what more the report is, we focus on all of the attributes the building has to have. So what somebody should be doing is having a conversation with the building, the property manager, the board, and all the improvements they've done, any drainage systems, any new route, like all that stuff. And that's all going to be highlighted in the report. And the risk engineer that goes out to the property will focus on those things. As far as I think they were asking I think in a roundabout way, they're asking how that affects the insurance premiums. It's hard to say because everybody, there's so many different ways to say, oh, if you get a new roof, you're going to be able to get X amount of discount off. And there's really no way to determine what the discount's going to be on the premiums. What I can tell you is that when you do, hold these underwriters, you hold the underwriters responsible, the building responsible, you hold everybody accountable for what the building has to offer, the rates do improve. We've seen premiums come down because there's something that, you just tell a better story. So it's really a function of just tying it to a specific rate. I can't do, but I will tell you any piece of information that the building can offer as far as preventative ways to prevent a loss does tell a better story to the underwriters.
So, and Daniel, I can touch a little bit more detailed on that too.
You do, I think Chris is asking also just to be more specific, if you think 21 years in a community requires a water and drainage collection system analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, anything at that 20-year mark, I think you want to start to take a look at things. But what I would say is each community is different too, because it would be really important to see, what type of material was installed there, and what the rating is for how long it lasts. If your system was installed and we checked the manufacturing dates and it says that that your drainage system is good for 50 years and you're not having any problems with it, you may not have to do a detailed inspection, but 20 years on anything, you definitely want to do at least a minor preventative maintenance inspection to make sure that that's going well. And part of that is Brandon's piece, which is these detailed engineering reports. Another part that we're going to go into later that we haven't even touched on yet is preventative maintenance programs. And I don't know if everybody has heard of those yet that's on the call, or you haven't heard of them. We do very detailed preventative maintenance programs, and those are all customized with each individual property because, again, you have different systems, you have different operations, you have different materials that were installed at different times. But preventative maintenance and the program that we're going to go through later is incredibly helpful in outlining those things for your engineering report, but also for your insurance carrier to know, hey, we take care of our property and things are up to date and this has been checked. Without knowing the specifics of the detail of the materials that are on your community at this time, it would be hard to tell if you have to do an inspection. But what I would say is, at 21 years old, you probably do want to do some type of preventative maintenance inspection. Is that something we can provide? Yes. And we can talk to you more in detail about that, not on this call, but I will go over the preventative maintenance package as a whole later on in the presentation, and the different things that you should be looking at. And again, highlighting, right, for not just for your getting insurance, but for your community as a whole. There's different, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, 5-year, 10-year inspections on all different kinds of things on your property that you need to be considering. And I would say it's come to light to be a lot more prevalent in the last few years than it was for a long time, right? And I'll bring up, the Surfside incident that created all the SIRS inspections and everything that's been going on with the condos and the communities, right? What happened was a lot of communities weren't doing any preventative maintenance and things were kind of getting out of hand, right? I see it a lot on the roofing side where they're like, hey, we got a tile roof and it's only been on there for 30 years. Tile's supposed to be good for 50 and there's issues. And I say, well, have you done the preventative maintenance that you're supposed to do every single year on cleaning the tile and washing the tile and making sure that there's not growth and algae and different things going on to it? And they're like, we had no idea. Well, if you read those manufacturing specs on that material, it tells you the preventative maintenance that you need to do. And every single product that you have on your property has a maintenance plan based on the manufacturer's warranty and the useful life that they provide. So we're great at coming into your community and going through a detailed inspection of everything you have and knowing what does that preventative maintenance look like and what you need there. As far as quotes for what that would cost and how to get that done, every community is different because all the, how much you want to do versus not want to do will depend on that. So,
Thanks.
But great question. I'm sure a lot of people probably have that question. So I would say it's much more of an individual one-on-one assessment. I won't be able to get into all the details with each person's individual community today. So,
Sure, yeah.
But hopefully that was helpful. And yes, we can help you with all of those things. And we'll go through a little bit more of a detailed preventative maintenance and what that looks like later in the presentation as well. And
you want to keep going or you want more questions?
I think we'll keep going because otherwise I'll keep running my mouth. And Peggy, I see you got a question, so go ahead.
Yes, hi. I just want to make a comment that preventative maintenance, and maybe you're going to cover this, will protect your warranties. A lot of associations don't want to spend that extra $1,000 or $2,000 a year on preventative maintenance. So highly consider preventative maintenance to cover your warranties, which also helps with your insurance. So that's all I wanted to add.
So a quote I hear in the insurance industry a lot, and it's more so from the insurance companies, is you can't measure money not spent. So people don't want to spend the money for preventative maintenance. They don't want to get the engineering report. They don't want to do an emergency storm plan for their community. But then in 5 years, their roof that was supposed to last 20 years is no good anymore, and they're wondering why, right? So, or their siding, right? Or maybe their drainage, right? So you have to make sure that you're doing these things, and you have to be aware of what that looks like. I understand that it's a lot to know. That's why you have professionals that, that Peggy puts together in these groups that can help you with this stuff, because it is a lot to know, whether you're a board member volunteering your time or you're a property manager. Property managers have to manage the property and the communities and all the residents, right? How can they be an expert in every single field of construction and insurance and, HVAC and all these different things? It's impossible, right? So they have to rely on partners that they have. Utilize the partners that you have, the teams that Peggy puts together here for you, to get these things figured out. But the environment that we're in today, you have to be prepared. You have to make sure you're taking care of your community. I know board members and property managers now have more liability to themselves as far as doing due diligence on things. So you have to make sure you're relying on partners to help getting you the right answers to protect your communities and do the right things for them. So hopefully that was helpful to that question. And again, I dropped my email in the chat earlier. You're more than happy to send us an inquiry, and one of my team members will get with you, and we can get something scheduled to do, at least explain to you more about preventative maintenance. And if not, schedule an in-person to come out and do an evaluation of your property and put you on a preventative maintenance program or insurance plan. So, but yeah, we'll jump back into it. We'll do a few more questions here in a little bit here. Daniel, thank you for that. And then Brandon, did you want to jump into the risk management piece?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say about this report, and I think it's in the next slide, but this is not an engineering report. It can't stand in for a SIRS, it can't stand in for the milestone. The mission of this report is to get your insurance premiums lowered. So I don't want that to be confused with, if we do this, that's the SIRS, that's this and that. So this is a whole different report. And if done right, the way that it's been structured is a lot of the brokers will actually cover the cost, simply because it gives that broker the edge over the other brokers. So that's I just wanted to clarify that, because I know there are some I mentioned some engineers on the phone. I just didn't want to confuse that. But no, what this report, what the report is, it's a corner-to-corner inspection of the building. And essentially, like I said, to sum it up, it just tells a better story of the building. It really paints a better picture for the insurance carriers. And the way the report is structured is it uses the same scoring factors that the underwriters use. So it's written in the language the underwriters read, and it's using the same scoring they use. So it's very easy for them to understand what the report is actually saying. And it really just takes away the community factor. So, your building's not rated individually, it's rated on a community basis. So what it does is it takes the buildings that are somewhat like yours and groups them with the buildings that are similar. And that puts you guys in a rating class. You also want to make sure that you're explaining the maximum foreseeable loss, the minimum probable loss, normal loss expectancy equations that are in there. It helps the underwriters better understand, what they're up against if something does happen. There's also human element programs that are in there. Basically, just we had one with they were putting in a barbecue pit. And it was with huge torches. And at the end of the day, it was like, well, who's going to manage those torches? And, it's like there's all these different things that you can't see. And when the building goes out and does it, when the carriers go out and do the inspection, they see these giant torches going everywhere next to palm trees. It just creates a whole thing. And so there's a human element factor that comes into play that is also managed. Wind mitigation reports are always good. They're relatively cheap. I think they're good for 3 years. But if there's any major updates done to windows, storm shutters, or anything like that, you do want to get a new wind mitigation report done. A breakdown of the TIVs. I think Daniel, you've seen it where the I've done it where I've seen policies where the TIV, if there's multiple buildings, from TIVs broken out per building. I've also seen multiple buildings with one full TIV to cover everything. It's not often I've seen that, but sometimes just making sure that the full TIV is covered. And a lot of people, if they don't break it out in the building, they have the full TIV, people kind of freak out and they say, well, where's the building coverage? Where's this? Where's that? But it's all encompassed in the one TIV. And the other thing that we've done is a severe weather impact study. We haven't done it on everything, but mainly the coastal buildings we've done it on. It just kind of helps the underwriters understand, like, everybody knows what historical weather patterns are like, but this kind of puts it in writing. So you'd be surprised what putting something in writing does for these underwriters, especially when it's in their own language.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in real quick, Brendan. The things that I've seen out there, wind mitigation reports, you're 1,000% right. You need to get them updated whenever you do updates, especially to a roofing structure or any of your openings, windows and doors. You wouldn't believe how many mistakes are made on these documents, and you wouldn't believe how much premium communities I've seen are paying above what they should be paying because these documents were not written properly. It is probably the number one document I see errors in that costs communities tens of thousands of dollars in premium. And here's why. Many times when the inspectors come out, if they knock on a door and no one answers, they put no attic access. No attic access is the same as you have zero protection. So if you had all hurricane windows and doors and you had double straps in your roof, you get zero coverage for it because the inspector couldn't get in the door to look at it and tell them that. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I have a community that went from $950,000 in premium to $650,000 in premium because I caught that error that was made 3 years prior and nobody bothered to pay attention to it. It blew my mind. And as far as the TIVs go for the individual buildings versus, one grouped building, I agree with you. Personally, I like it better. Citizens does it that way. ACIC, American Coastal, does it that way. They all break them out on a per building risk, which I think is the better way to do it so you can see what your premium is. But there are those who will just bulk it into one. So it's not abnormal to see it. It's just obviously we'd like to see it delineated if possible.
And I think it's also important to say that as far as these buildings go, it takes one window that's not impact resistant, one window in the building, doesn't matter how big or how small, it's one window. And if you are missing an impact window in one spot, the entire building doesn't get coverage.
Agreed. Yeah, that.
And
again,
I've had that. I've had that. Ed, the building we worked on in Pompano together, that building, there was two residents that didn't want to do impact windows, and it screwed the whole building because they weren't everybody else had impact windows and they weren't getting the rating for it. So it's just really interesting for people to understand.
And that's a conversation for the community, right? It's like, hey, we could save $100,000 if we pay for the windows for those residents. Maybe we do it, right?
Yeah.
So, but those are the things that if you don't even know to ask these questions, you have no idea to even do that, right? So you want to make sure you have a strong team that is giving you this information and asking these questions, right? You want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to jump into it. And I just want to make sure we're being respectful on time too, Peggy. I see nobody's left, but does this go all the way to 1:30 or is this till 1 o'clock?
I think we're till 1:30.
Till 1:30. Okay. I just
want to check. 1:30.
We're still on section 1.
Yes. All right. No questions. No questions. Let's go through it. So
no, it's okay. We'll get through it. But again, as you guys can see, this is what we try to provide is giving you more tools in your belt to help you and your communities make better decisions, right? That's the entire piece behind education is I want you guys to take something away from this. Even if you take one thing, if you take several things, and again, we're not going anywhere. Daniel's here, Brandon's here, I'm here. So, and the rest of, the sponsors. So if you have questions, we're around, we don't disappear after the presentation ends. So, just a little detail on, this goes right along with those reports that Brandon and his team put together. And this is parts that we've partnered with him on, but doing the independent roof inspections, we talked about, roof certifications, things like that. We found that, sometimes the the carrier goes up, might look at a roof and say, oh, that roof's not in great shape. We've done where we've flown infrared drones over the properties, shown that, before, during, and after a storm, there's no water penetration getting into the building, or maybe we did a coating instead of a full re-roof that some carriers allow as well. And we prove that there's no water getting back into the building, which allows you to maybe get insured additionally for that year or for a couple of years. So this is a valuable tool as well, using the infrared scans, not just for the roofing, but we actually use it for the walls, windows, and everything else as well. And again, if it highlights that your building is well protected and well equipped and can handle, rain and storms in Florida, it makes you look good, right? If we fly that drone and it doesn't look good, we might not want to submit this report to your insurance company. So you just have to be careful, but it is valuable in helping highlight some positive things and letting you know where your risks are on your community, right? And people don't realize the power of what's out there today, but you can fly your entire building doing infrared at dusk in 15 minutes and know exactly where all the leaks and trouble spots on your building are. So that's a very powerful piece as well. And I didn't know if you had any more that you wanted to share on that slide, Brandon, before I move on.
No, I'm good. I don't want to beat a dead horse there, but yeah, it's just basically understanding that the more info you give to the broker, and the more info you give to the underwriters, the better chance you have. And having a broker partner that explains it well is definitely going to help.
And then I'll just let you touch on these additional things to consider, and then
there's this insurance, property insurance valuation verification, just understanding that you're at full TIV. Vendor qualification is kind of something you can do. That's more or less, you have somebody come in that's a masseuse, and they're coming into the building, and they just want to make sure they have their own professional coverage. Reserve studies. We don't do reserve studies. I'm sure everybody has somebody they use, but for the most part, just making sure that this is all budgeted, and having those up to date is obviously what everybody's trying to do right now.
Absolutely. No, thank you. So the next piece, right? So that was stage one. That's that risk management report, that we've kind of been building up and talking about, and it kind of led into, part of that risk management report. When you do that big report, if you have an active preventative maintenance program already, that'll answer a lot of those questions when you're putting that report together. So, again, in the chat, anybody utilizing preventative maintenance programs at this time, just drop a yes, drop a no if you're not. Drop a I have no idea if you've never even heard of a preventative maintenance program, and we're going to go through the details of it. And I saw the Vinteum group shared an article about preventative maintenance as well, so feel free to check that out. But no, I appreciate you guys answering. It's helpful to know that, there's some people still out there listening, so that's good. And not everybody utilizes the preventative maintenance program. It's something that we've been offering for a long time. And if you don't have one, you definitely want to learn more about it. If you do have one, that's great. Maybe you can add more detail to it from the things that you're learning about today. Or you can feel free to schedule some time with us and we can look at it as well. But, right, they can provide carrier confidence about that the property is being maintained properly, right? That's what we've been talking about this entire time, is how do we provide confidence to the insurance carrier that your property is being taken care of? Preventative maintenance programs are great. Now, they can be really detailed, they can be less detailed, but there are some certain things that you really definitely want to take care of. I highlighted some things on here that I'm going to go through. And, some of these things are things that you may already have in place, and you realize like, hey, you know what, we do these, but we don't have an official document that says this is what we do. This preventative maintenance package program that you're going to put together is highlighting the things that you already are doing and then combining it with additional things that you should be doing so that you can outlay a really good vision for the insurance companies or whoever you're trying to show it to. It may be for new residents, right? Like, hey, we're a great place to live. And, because we do all of these things regularly, and here's a professional document of who we are and what we do, but providing that to the carrier as a professional document shows that you're pretty organized, but you are taking care of these things as well, right? So monthly tasks, right? Common area inspections. A lot of your communities, you may have on-site maintenance people, correct? So if you do, is this part of what they check on a regular basis? Do they have a checklist of what they check on a regular basis? Do you even have any idea what your on-site maintenance guy is doing at all times? Or is he just running around, fixing light bulbs at random homeowners' houses, right? And condos. So make sure that as you dive into this, you see there's a lot more detail to every single thing that you do. Common area inspection, who's doing it, right? Are we doing it at all? If it's not being done, do we have a maintenance guy? If we don't have a maintenance guy, should we have one? If we don't, do we want a third party that's going to check on these things? Or is it just one of the board members that, used to work in construction that walks around and checks on these things? That's great. I'm not saying any one of those things are right or wrong, but do you have a detailed checklist backing up that those things are being checked on a regular basis? If not, put one in place. If you do have it, make sure that you're adding it to your preventative maintenance, professional documents that you can have put together. We can help you put them together. We're happy to come and talk to your community for free about how you can set this stuff up, right? How you can put this stuff together. And then if you do want to add on more, inspections, you can do that as well. But landscape maintenance, right? Everybody's, I'm sure, is getting their grass cut. But again, are you tracking it and showing like, no, we take care of our grass and our landscape on a regular basis. We don't have any trees getting into the electrical lines. There's no trees rubbing on the roofs of the buildings that's affecting, and damaging the roofs. There's not, fruit trees there or avocado trees dropping giant, 5-pound avocados on the roof, right? So are you actually doing the right maintenance? Do you know what the right maintenance looks like? Do you have this stuff in place? All of that stuff can be solved with this preventative maintenance, package and program. But again, here's some monthly tasks, right? So here's some of the different things you can do. And again, each community is different. Where you're located is different. What types of buildings you have, what types of systems you have will all affect how often or how unoften you want to have these in place. But this is just a general inquiry. And then you can always check in with our team and we can build out a more detailed preventative maintenance program for you, or at least make sure you're asking the right questions when you're putting it together. Some quarterly tasks, HVAC systems, right? Elevator maintenance, plumbing inspections, roofing and gutter inspections. We find this all the time, right? There's leaks inside the homes, the roof's leaking. It might just be that the gutters have never been cleaned out for 25 years and the water is backing up and rolling into the soffit and coming down your walls, right? So your roof might be great, but you're not cleaning out your gutters. And then that can affect your roof. It can affect your interior, right? So having this stuff done is important. And again, who's doing it? Is it your on-site maintenance? Is it homeowner responsibility? Do you have a company that comes quarterly or biannually to take care of this stuff? You really need to make sure, if you don't have an answer to that, you do. And highlighting that stuff to the insurance company is going to help with your risk analysis report and helping you save money on that kind of stuff, right? Again, semi-annual tasks, painting and sealing, fire safety drills, looking at the fire safety drill, and we'll jump into that more on the emergency response plan list. But do you have emergency plans in place? What's your emergency protocols? They may be in your bylaws, but do you share that with your insurance company when you're getting it? Again, highlighting all of the things that you do well at your community is going to be important. And you know what? Even if you're not practicing it, highlighting that you do have that stuff in place and you have shared that with your community members is very important. So make sure that you're, getting that stuff out there. Again, annual tasks, talks about the reserve study again, which is annual, major HVAC services, roof inspections, elevator certifications. Not all these things may be relevant to you. There may be things that are relevant to you that aren't on this list. But you kind of are starting to see the value and the importance of putting one of these together, right? It may be things you thought of, maybe things you haven't thought of. Documentation of records and records, right? So every time you have inspections done, every time you have repairs done, all the great things you've done to improve your property, are you tracking that? Are you highlighting it? Do you know the last time that windows were installed? Do you have the manufacturer's saved documents in a folder somewhere? You want to make sure all that stuff is saved and detailed, and then also having it as part of your preventative maintenance, right? You may not have to pay for the damaged windows because they might have a 10-year manufacturer's warranty and they had a defect on them, right? So not everybody can dive into those details, but if you create one master document, one master sheet that gets passed from board to board or property manager to property manager for your community, now you have a full Bible of, hey, this is what's going on and this is where we find everything, right? So, and I've seen communities that have them that they're very, very detailed. I've seen property managers pull out binders this thick with a page for every single resident and every single detail of all the construction that's been done to their individual unit. And I've seen communities with nothing. So no matter where you're at, it's good to just get started, right? Or it's good to improve upon that. So, but preventative maintenance, I can't speak about it enough. The carriers do look for this stuff and they do take it very seriously to see that you are taking care of and maintaining your property. So if you guys do have questions about that, feel free to let me know. And I am speeding through it a little bit. So again, I want to make sure, I'm being respectful of everybody's time. So we're going to get through it. I'll answer a few more questions at the end. And then, anything additional, just feel free to shoot us an email and you'll get that taken care of for you. Emergency services and storm plan, right? So again, in the chat, just, we can't do show of hands, but yes and no, I don't know. Who has emergency service storm plans put together for their communities? Does anybody have them? Doesn't have them? Has it, but it's not as detailed as they'd like it to be. Let's kind of see what that looks like as well for everybody. This is another thing that's very, very important. We're in the state of Florida, right? We get storms. It used to just be hurricanes every 5 years, but now it seems like hurricanes every 2 years. We get tornadoes now. We get bigger hailstorms. Weather patterns are changing and we're getting things that we weren't used to in the past, right? So are we updated for the different types of storms that we're seeing? Are we updated for the areas that we're covering, right? Especially property managers that might be doing portfolio. Do you have some coastal properties and some inland properties? And, based on that and regionally, do you have it updated for what that should cover, right? So emergency service storm plans, big on safety, making sure we're paying attention to the safety, facilitating rapid response and mitigation, pre-storm preparation. Do the residents know your game plan for what happens if a big storm is coming, right? And I see somebody just dropped mitigation report. If the property does mitigation. So on the mitigation report detail, I just saw Dolores, you had asked that question. I just want to touch on the mitigation report. So they're specific to each property and each building. It's not just about checking the boxes, but you have to show the proof of what's being done there. And carriers are different. Some carriers do offer great discounts for it. Some carriers do not. It's the same as like some communities have a preventative maintenance plan and some don't, right? Every single one of them has different things that they look at. The best thing that you can do to make sure that you're taking care of the maximum benefits you can get is making sure that you do have all of your ducks in a row, have everything updated, and then get that mitigation report so that your broker can, sell your property the best that they can in the marketplace. So hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, we can give a more detailed answer later on that as well. But going back to the storm services plan, the most important piece to the storm services plan is having the trusted partners that you need in place to take care of when a storm happens, right? Or when you have flooding or when you have a fire, right? So it's the mitigation side too. It's not just these big storms, but it's a fire, it's mitigation, it's, a pipe burst. How quickly are you prepared and how quickly can they answer those questions for you? Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, okay. You're good. But with that being said, right, all the vendors that Peggy, introduces you to on a weekly basis and they come and they talk to you about, I have them all listed here. Do you have this list in your emergency response plan? And how, right, 24/7 availability? Do they have that 24/7 availability to take care of your property? How quickly are they going to respond in that event? Do you have secured pricing with them as well, right? Because what happens if the insurance company doesn't approve the claim because of, extenuating circumstances that are in your policy? Do you have locked in pricing with those vendors as well for tarping, for mitigation, for all of those things to make sure that you kind of know what your expense is going to be in the event the insurance doesn't cover it? Additional notes. Are they licensed? Have they worked in that area? Do they know what they're doing? Right. I think that that's important. And you'll vet and work with your own contractors, but you should have, if not one, multiple contractors that are on your preventative maintenance program and on your emergency storm services program to make sure that your property is protected. Go ahead, Peggy.
I just want to say I wouldn't leave that totally to your property manager because they have a lot of things to do daily, but maybe a board member or a board committee could be responsible for putting this together and checking it each year to make sure it's updated.
Nope, absolutely. And one thing we run into a lot, and I'm not going to touch too much on it. I usually touch on it more in my construction related classes, but I'll mention it because you brought up the board members. Typically, what we find in every single community is there's a construction expert that worked in construction 40 years ago, and they want their brother's roofing company to be your roofer. Make sure that the people that you're putting on your program and the people that you're working for have worked in that space, have dealt with properties of that size, have the proper licensing, have the proper insurance to take care of your property. This isn't about friends and family. It's about protecting your community and protecting the people that are in your community, right? So make sure that you're vetting these companies and you're working with good companies. I know everybody that's on Peggy's calls are all pre-vetted and work in this space and have for a long time, but just make sure that no matter who you're working with, that you go through that process and you're diligent about it. Again, some more emergency response steps. I'll share these slides with you so you have some idea to get this stuff in place, but there's a lot of details to all of this that I think is very valuable. And my team would be more than happy to dive into all three types of reports, one of the reports, whatever you guys need to try and assist your communities in making better, more informed decisions. So, and that's all I got for today, Peggy. I know we're pretty much coming up right on 1:30, so I'll let you do your closing remarks. But thank you so much for having us, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys were able to learn something from this. And if you do want us to come speak to your individual properties on this or any of the other classes on my site, let me know. We'll come down, we'll provide lunch and we'll speak to your property. We'll speak to your board members, or, for full community management companies, we'll come into your office and sponsor a lunch or something as well. So
Ed, if we still have time and you're willing to hang around, there's only a handful of questions left. Do you want to take those before we close, Peggy?
I'm good to knock it out. Up to Peggy, though.
Well, let's don't go too far past. Let's go to 1:40. Okay, 10 minutes.
All right, cool.
All right, so let me run through a couple of these real quick and just save us a little bit of time. So an anonymous person asked, what is the average current increase for flood insurance for condos with garages? There's no answer to that. There is no average. We've seen increases in the NFIP from 5% to 15%. I believe there's a statutory cap at 18%, but there is no actual average. What if a large over 5,000, this is more just okay. So Joe says, what if you had a 5,000 unit community, 100 buildings, 30 associations, it's a big master association. And the board of the master says, we want to use our preferred agent for the last 10 years. Is that a red flag? Essentially not allowing any other agents in to participate. I'll let Brandon, you want to take that one?
It's not a red flag because they can use whoever they want, but at the end of the day, it's really just understanding what the broker's doing, because a lot of brokers in this space just sit back and they just go through the renewal year after year. They show up 3 months before the renewal. They get a million things from you. They have you sign 1,000 documents, and then you don't see them again for a night. And then they come back 2 days before the renewal with a number you don't like, and you really have no options. So it's become a revolving door. So if it's a good relationship and the broker is doing the right thing, then I don't see why you wouldn't stay with them. But if it's a function where you feel like you're getting kicked in the teeth year after year, then, there's no harm in looking at other brokers. But, it's funny when you start, I'm sure Daniel's going through this, but when you start poking around another building and the broker's been on it for 10 years, he all of a sudden becomes very active.
That's the truth.
And it's a lot of block and tackling going on. So,
and I think that ties into exactly what we're talking about today, right? Is our goal here is to educate the industry and help everybody make better decisions. If you're, to Brandon's point, if your broker is doing a great job and you think he's going above and beyond to make sure that he's taking care of your property, there's no reason to change. But we went through a bunch of different things today that I saw a lot of people saw that they hadn't even heard of yet. Or have going on for their property. So if they're not taking care of those things or asking the right questions, feel free to mention to even your broker. You could say, hey, have you considered these things? Maybe they haven't heard of them before either. Or, you can look into another broker. Daniel's on here. He's happy to answer any questions for you. Again, like he said, you don't need a broker of record letter to go and speak to him and talk to you about any information or any questions you have. So ask him some questions. I'm sure that Daniel's happy to answer those for you. So,
Ed, the questions sort of come up once or twice here about the difference between what you do, what Brandon does, and what I do. So
okay.
Just a very short synopsis.
Yeah, I can give a little synopsis on that. So starting off, Daniel's your broker. So he's the one that's going to help you secure that insurance and take you through the different process. And he's very well versed in the insurance market, probably just as much as me. So he can answer a lot of questions that I can answer for you as well. But he's going to deal with you on the insurance end. Brandon and his team specifically put together those master reports for you. And not so much the preventative maintenance and the storm planning ones, but that master report that exemplifies and pushes out all the detail about your community to try and get you better rates. Brandon would partner with somebody like Daniel to work hand in hand to help get those reports for your community and help get you guys better rates. But Brandon doesn't do the insurance, Daniel does, and Brandon helps with that report. My team, we're a full service construction firm, but I focus on education. So where I come from and my background is education. So I always want to just help put people in the right direction and give you guys as much tools as you can to make good decisions for your community. But our team does do those preventative maintenance packages and storm planning reports. So we can come in, talk to you more about that in detail. But I start everything that I do with education. So I'd rather come and communicate and educate with you guys directly. Feel free to jump on a call with me and my team or schedule a separate call with just your team and us so that we can answer more specific questions about your property and see how we can help you.
I got a doozy. This is a really interesting one. I'm not even sure I know the answer of this. Gloria asks, if we're doing a restoration on our condo, which has impact windows, but is under construction, so they've removed the windows, is insurance coverage effective during hurricane season? So what happens if a storm comes along and potentially does damage and these windows have been removed by a contractor while doing restoration?
That's a really great question. I would probably ask your insurance agent and the insurance company how they feel about that because it is hurricane season. My first assumption is that if there's damage, that it would go as a claim, and it would be a battle between the insurance company and the contractor's insurance. Right. But one of their insurance policies is going to cover it. So with that being said, that is even more important to make sure, does the contractor carry enough insurance to back the potential damage that could happen from those windows being open? And my assumption is, and again, don't take this to the grave. This is an assumption, but as those windows are open, I can't imagine that they're leaving hundreds of windows open at a time. Even if they're being replaced, those holes are probably being covered up temporarily by something that would prevent, damage from happening. But that's a really good question that I don't have the direct answer to, because it really would depend on whose insurance that falls under. To me, if you're doing a big project like that, I think the carrier would want to be aware of it, because if all your windows are out and rain comes in, I'm thinking it's going to be on the contractor's insurance, because they're the ones that are responsible for if they open something up for closing it properly. And
there's definitely a level of responsibility on them to making sure that they're maintaining your property properly in case of something severe like that.
Now, if they did all the things that they were supposed to do, and a hurricane came and still ripped off all the temporary bracing and all that, I would imagine that the carrier would cover it. But again, I'm not the carrier, so it may be somewhere in your policy that it explains that, because some of these policies can be very many pages long. But
Gloria, send me an email. My info's in the chat. Send me an email. I'm going to look into that, because I've never had that question before, but it's a really interesting one, and I'm curious myself what the answer is.
And you're definitely not the first person that's doing a project while it's hurricane season. So
absolutely.
All right, we just have a few minutes left. We'll buzz through this one real quick. An anonymous source: is current or new states condo law requiring flood insurance to be placed at 80% or greater of coverage of full building value? That is not a state law. Flood insurance is not state, it's federal. And there's no 80% rule on the condo law when it comes to the state of Florida. So that's not the question being asked is a good one, but it's not condo, it's state. And it's really it's also your lender who's requiring you to have that coverage in order to make loans, not so much because you're required to have flood coverage. Anybody else want to add?
No, I'm good with that.
Brandon, you have your hand up. Or you?
No, I'm good. I was just going to say really quick one of the things that I just wanted to say really quick. One of the things that to go back to what we said before, if there's things you heard today that you ask your broker about, and the broker says, yeah, we can do that, or we have to do that, the question to ask your broker to hold accountable is, why haven't you done it yet? So it's one of those things where, you're going to get a lot of people, hey, can you do a risk engineering report? Yeah, we can do that. We do those all the time. And the question should be, why haven't you? And that should kind of start opening the door to see who you really should be working with and who you shouldn't. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, cool.
Okay, well, can I go on and close this out, and we'll do the questions? You guys can follow up with emails.
Yeah, go ahead, Peggy. Hey, it's your world, Peggy. We're just living it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, our audience is dropping off little by little.
We're just happy to be here, So.
Well, thank you to the audience. Of course, we had about 200 register. We still have 105 on. I really appreciate your interest and support of the webinars. I can't thank you enough, Ed, for coordinating this, and Brandon and Daniel. You're a gem, always moderating and doing a great job. And I really appreciate the accolades you got, but you guys are the ones that really power this through. I just want to close with a few things about what's coming up. There might be some snowbirds in, new board members, and so on. I'm putting on weekly webinars now. And I just want to mention some expos that are coming up in our area in South Florida. So starting with October 7th, we have the Broward Expo. You can look it up under HOA and Condo Expo in Broward County. 10/16 is the Palm Beach Expo if you live up a little bit further north. Then on November 5th, they're having a Miami Condo and HOA Expo if you live closer or south, or if you miss one of those two, you might want to go south for the day and check into all the vendor products that are available. And there's going to be some education classes at each one as well. As far as my classes coming up, I have several, but I do want to mention them because we are in season. October 14th, I have Best Roofing presenting. On October 22nd, I have Altieri Insurance Consulting's presenting, and they're going to be public adjusters giving a take on catastrophe planning. On October 24th, that's a Friday, 10 to 11:30, I have an attorney, Steve Rappaport from Palm Beach County area, doing a legal update, which is a requirement for boards. Okay, it is now a requirement to do 1 hour of a legal update in addition to your 4 hours of your board training. On October 27th, we're going to have a panel with Vinteum software. October 30th, I have Jamie Gelfand. She's going to do a conversation, CEU credit combined on First Citizens Bank, banking, what's out there, what you need for planning. And followed by that is November 4th. Benjamin Moore is coming in. They're also going to be talking about planning. November 11th, we have J.R. Fraser. You want to mark your calendar for this one as well. It's a reserve study presentation. November 24th, Vinteum is going to come back around on a follow-up on some training. And December 4th, I have a company, Socatech. They are going to discuss budgets. So with your end of the year financials coming in, mark December 4th as well. So thank you, everybody. I can't thank you all enough. Vinteum, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Again, best wishes for Yom Kippur to my listeners, and I appreciate every one of you. Thank you.